Right, councillors, please, we're going live. Thank you. Welcome everybody to today's council meeting. Could you please stand for reading prayer? Councillor Bucknell, please.
Almighty God, as members of the Rangitikei District Council, we give thanks for all the good things of our district and the advantages we enjoy. We pray that you will give us wisdom and guidance as we conduct the affairs of this meeting. We pray for all the communities in the district we represent to help us to be fair and honest in our discussions and help us to work together in unity for the welfare of all your people. Amen.
Thank you. Great start. Welcome councillors, welcome staff, welcome members of the press. Thank you very much. Thank you for your interest. And thank you, the chair of Dustin Humble Community Committee, for joining us. Thank you very much. In terms of the order of business today, apologies first. I have apologies from Councillor Rokawa and I have Councillor Fee Dalgety online. Other than that, I think everybody is here. Would somebody like to so move, please? Councillor Charland and Councillor Fee seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. We have no public forum, item 3 for today. Item number 4, the conflict of interest. Does anybody wish to declare it a conflict of interest at this stage of the meeting? Bearing in mind you can do so later. No? Thank you very much. In terms of the confirmation of order of business, unless I have had no instruction from staff that needs to change, so we'll take that as read. Item number 6, the confirmation of minutes, pages 8, 9 and 10. This was a meeting that I was away for on other council business. So I'm looking for alterations and corrections. 8, pages 8, 9 and 10. And thank you, Dave, for chairing that meeting. Any alterations or corrections? Would somebody then like to so move? Councillor Buckendale moving. Councillor Charland would just beat you a little bit. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Councillor Charland seconding. Those in favour? Thank you. Maybe we could use you next time, Councillor Field. And the follow-up actions, item 7.1, there were none, so that makes that straightforward. We move now to the Mayor's report, pages 12 and several pages. I will certainly take it as read, make my appointments as read. A lot of it deals with the civil defence, and there is always going to be a carryover to the Chief Executive's report as well in that space. And it goes on to deal with the all of government meeting in Wellington and following meeting the following day, rural and provincial. I'd bring to your attention item number 10, the use of my powers under the Local Government Act to appoint Mr. Philip Jones as the independent chair of the Audit and Risk Committee and appointing councillor members of the committee to that, and appointing Councillor Diana Baird to Finance Performance. I'll just comment on the independent chair of Audit and Risk Committee. That went through quite a process, and Leanne, do you wish to comment on that process?
Certainly, through the chair. So we went through a standard advert that we would do for any appointment in this way, and we shortlisted and interviewed 3, and Mr. Philip Jones was the standout candidate in that appointment, and looking forward to having him join our team again.
Yeah. Also, the recommendations, there's some stuff from the shareholder agreements, just some fine tuning of quorums, etc., and giving effect to the treaty and principles and establishment. So that's part of the second recommendation. But before I take any questions around the report, I'll move that it be received, looking for a seconder to that. Thank you, Councillor Beard. Those in favour, those against, carry. Open the floor to any questions. Councillor Beard.
It's not a question, it's just a thank you. It's really great to see the slides from these presentations being included. I found that really interesting.
Yeah, we get given them as a process out of all of government, and sometimes they give a contrary view to where local government is headed, and that's fine. And but it does show that there are these active discussions around the table. And when you read my reports, I try and always identify what has been said and then identify what my reaction or thoughts are as a separate heading almost. Anything else? Councillor Dalgety online. Councillor.
Thank you. I'm just wanting to bring to your attention, there's concern in the Hunterville community around the management of the Porora stream. And we believe in the recent event, we were extremely lucky. And I am just collecting a whole lot of photos. We were very lucky not to get flooded houses. So there's concern around the maintenance of Dam 100 and the silt that is certainly accumulated now, but it did breach, but it wasn't a serious breach if it had been a rain event. However, with the state of the stream, particularly north of Hunterville on the state highway, which is adjacent to land that council owns, in the storm in 2004, all that creek was cleared, and now it's just a shambles. And we were very, very lucky that houses were not flooded, whereas businesses adjacent to the stream were.
Yeah, thank you, councillors. Thank you, councillor. This raises the issue also around the scheme reports, because you're talking about retention dams on the Porora.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a meeting of the scheme, and I think Councillor Wilson and Councillor Field, I think the two of you attended scheme meeting.
Yes, that's correct. At Horizons Regional Council here in Martin. That's correct.
Do you wish to comment? And specifically, was there the concern from Councillor Dalgety addressed in terms of retention on the Porora?
I don't recall that subject being specifically identified, Your Worship, although the dams in themselves all up in that area were raised by a number of farmers that did attend the meeting. It was quite a rural focused meeting, and there was a range of other discussions, but I don't recall that particular matter in Dam 100, which I'm not familiar, Councillor Dalgety, being raised specifically. But there was a number of local farmers from the Hunterville area that did attend that meeting. So it may be a matter for Horizons Council to.
Okay, Councillor Field, anything you wish to add to the conversation?
Absolutely agree with everything that he said. There was definitely rural people there, as well as those from Turatina. I also don't recall hearing anything about this.
Do you want me to raise that with Horizons, specifically with regard to Dam 100, or?
Yes, I would, Your Worship. I will send, just collaborating a whole lot of photos, and we're talking with the Hunterville Community Committee. They are interested, well, I'm going to be recommending they write to Horizons as well. It's a similar situation to us. Horizons have money, it's how they prioritise it. But I think we were lucky to escape flooding in houses this time around.
Yeah. Can we just record that as an action, please, for that to happen, for me to raise it for Chief Executive or Chair of Horizons in terms of the weather event, the the very quick summary is that weather event could have been 100 times worse. The flooding that was predicted very early on would have been worse than 2004 if it had eventuated. The very, very high winds that were predicted certainly hit us, and that was the majority of the damage in the networks. There are papers within the rest of council meetings around some of the cost impacts. I'm not going to spend time going into that too much. But there is a significant cost impact, and it comes at a time when we've just picked up extra roading money because of our concerns with the network. So it's been a little bit of a double whammy, and thank you, Mr. Black, for the report that you then look at later. But I'd absolutely like to thank staff and the contractors and farmers that opened up roads, that worked through some very, very poor weather conditions to do that. And I'm sure that our Chief Executive will make further comments. Councillor Charlotte.
Your Worship, is there any important updates to report from your defence meeting?
Yeah, I haven't. I had one defence meeting just the other day. So, and Carol, our Chief Executive, also attended. There were a couple of things raised around, one specific to us around the trooping of the colours for Taihape, and that there will need to be a discussion with iwi in that space. Also, I've raised the difficulty of the State Highway 1, State Highway 3 intersection, that crossing, and said, look, can we do some work with defence in that space? Didn't get a clear answer, which was to be expected. There are some further housing work that will be undertaken in Bull. So there was a block of 5 houses, I think it was, that was done in this last year's budget. Yeah. Another, I was going to say, it's another 11 that are being done. That's the next block of housing in Bulls. But Bulls has certainly been identified by Defence. I did raise with Defence that we will have a new motel complex open reasonably soon. And that was warmly received by Defence. I think it will be used quite a bit. Carol, anything else from you?
Just get my notes, that's what I noted as well for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Questions? While you're thinking about that, would somebody like to move recommendation? Councillor Dalgety.
Well, just another risk that I think we're quite vulnerable to at the moment with, effectively our stormwater drains are full of slash from where people, where everything's been cleared, trees have been cleared. So in the short term, I believe that is a bit of a concern if there was another big rain event.
Yeah, certainly, and you will get the report later on about the work still to be done. And that is a concern / risk, but I know that the roading team are looking to deal with those issues.
We can cover that one in that item.
Yeah. Would somebody like to move the recommendation 2, which will need an option in there? Councillor Buckner.
I'd like to move that council does agree that the shareholder agreements, as you've laid out in your agenda, carry on. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
No, I think you could accept clauses, just refer to them as clauses 2 and 6.
So my recommendation is that council does agree to include A clause 2 and B clause 6 as in the agenda.
Somebody wants further clarity, that could raise it certainly. But before that, I'm looking for a seconder to that. Thank you, Councillor Hero, seconding. You wish to speak to the motion?
I'm very happy to see the inclusion of the Maori involvement in those clauses. Thank you.
Any further speakers to the motion? No need of a right of reply, then put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. That concludes my report. I move to item number 9, the Chief Executive's report, and I'll pass to the Chief Executive, Karen. Thank you, Karen.
I'll go through section by section like we normally do. So starting off with events held across our district. As is this time of the year, normally we still see a large number of events happening, which is fantastic. Some were impeded by the recent storm, but the parks team were able to get them cleared, so they were able to be held, which was fantastic. Moving through this outline of staff movements and health and safety. Submissions still continues to be a large number of submissions coming to us, and as exec team we prioritise the ones that are really important to be able to respond to, and you'll see a list of those there. The Central District's water, that's just capturing our update of where we're at, noting the board, the shareholder committee, is meeting on the 13th of February to decide on the board, which that'll be a great milestone in that process.
Just a question of you that, but first of all, could we receive the report? Somebody like to say move the reports are received. Councillor Everall moving, Councillor Wilson seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. My question is with this one, it's not so much a question, but it's a clarification for councillors realising that now that the shareholders committee have been set up, a number of the functions that you may have thought sit with councils have passed to the shareholding committee, which includes the appointment of directors, which will be made public on the 13th.
Following your meeting on the 13th.
Yeah, so that's the time frame. So that's why the approval of the directors doesn't come directly back to council, but in the future, the statement of expectations is a council function. So there's just a few things around understanding where responsibilities lie for this process from here on in. Sorry, I'll go back to you.
No, that's fine.
Could I just jump in and make a comment on that, Your Worship? And I think it's relevant for councillors, and you're 100% correct in what you've just said. Whilst I am on the shareholder committee along with His Worship, I haven't been directly involved in the appointments, but the process that I have had access to and the calibre of those that have applied is very, very high. And the process that has been followed is very, very good process to appoint suitable directors of the nature and calibre of which we're going to require for the board. So just to say, let councillors know that that process has been incredibly thorough, and I'm very comfortable with the process of where we've got to so far with the appointments.
Certainly, I was one on the appointments committee, and you actually the right calibre is incredibly high. The interesting thing was a number of applicants could potentially have been considered by a number of different boards, but they've elected to go to this board. And when questioned as to why, because they said this is a board that shows huge potential in the future, and it is leading the pack in terms of the new setup processes. So the applicants were incredibly complimentary, saying this is what they're targeting. So yeah, pass back to you.
Thank you. If there's no further question on that one, I'll just go to the request from the trust that is looking after the Te Manawa project in Ratana. So I received a request from the trust asking for a building consent fee waiver. for this project, which obviously is seen both nationally and regionally in district as a significant project, which is why it achieved the $10 million funding from the Regional Infrastructure Fund. So the trust was concerned that they had a duplicated consent process. And I just wanted to highlight here that two things happened in the time that this consent was lodged. I think you'll remember that council moved from the simply consenting system to objective. But at the same time, the trust had lodged one building consent for the whole project, and that created its own complexities. So in order to move the project forward, the consent was split into a stage 1 and a stage 2. And at that time, it was moved into the objective system. So the first application under simply for the whole project was withdrawn, and then the staged consent was put in place. Stage 1 has been granted, and stage 2 is still underway in terms of the consent. The other complexity with this one is our building control authority cannot process a COM 3 consent, which is what this one was. It's quite complex. We're only able to go up to COM level 2. So we engaged NPL to do the processing of that consent for us, which is where you'll see they come through in this. So the request is there for council to consider or a waiver, but I'm happy to take any further questions.
Question from me. So essentially you've outsourced most of the work with us. So that isn't becoming an internal cost, it's an external cost that we would have to pay.
That's right, because we can't do the COM level 3.
Councillor Wong.
Out of that figure, how much is internal cost that is done by our council?
You'll see the administration cost, the planner, the infrastructure technical, and a very small portion of the building officer of the 12,000.
Thank you.
My very quick maths would give you that a sum of around about $370, which would, if you take out the 12,000 as an external cost.
And I just want to note that stage 2, there will still be more cost to complete that consent as well. So there's a recommendation there for council to.
Councillor Gilroy.
Just a question about the request that has come in. Were they aware that there was going to need to be, in order for things to keep moving, two separate costs? You know, we split it down from one application to two. Were they aware that that was the way forward?
Yes, the staff and NPL worked with the agent on that, so they understood that that was the way they could move the project forward and get some of it started. So they were aware of that.
Subsequent question to that
Certainly.
would be, were they aware that we don't have the capacity, we didn't have the capability within within council itself to be able to move things forward, and we would have to go out to virtually get someone else to do that consent?
I'm not sure how that was communicated to them, but I haven't got Johan in the room, but I would have assumed that our building control team would have told them it would be processed externally because we don't have the capability.
Yeah.
We did ask them to come to, or the building control team asked them to come to a meeting so they could explain everything to them, but they never took that offer up. So I'm not sure how else the communication occurred.
Councillors, I've just formally done the maths. If you take out the $12,119, that would leave you with $576.75 that could be regarded as true internal costs to this council. but that's. I'm looking really for someone to put a motion on the table here. Councillor Watson, you can do that.
Seeking to move a motion and looking forward to speaking to if I get a seconder. The council does not agree to waive the building cost consents for this project. And seeking a seconder.
Second.
You've got a seconder. Just before, no further questions, otherwise I'll ask you to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Worship. Look, I don't think there's any doubt that it's a project of significance to Ratana, but to our district as a whole, and I don't think that should be denied. But the problem that we arise here is I'm not really sure that this application truly fits within precedents set previously by our council policies. So that's one of the questions that I have bouncing around in my mind. I think as a council, we are in a very, very tricky spot with regards to costings and fundings and rates pressure and all the other pressures that we're falling under. We have a report later in later in this council meeting about the cost of the recent weather event. And we have to consider all parts of these sorts of applications and consider the costs and the implications. The money doesn't go away. It is simply money that we do not receive. And that means we have to find that in other ways and means. We've had several meetings of recent where we have discussed options of trimming our budgets to try and maintain some sort of a reduction in our rates level. And I think it's fair to say that everybody in the public will be aware that we're being driven potentially to a rates cap of 4%. Well, I think it's time now for us to walk the walk and talk the talk. And we have to be pragmatic about some of our decisions. So I can't support this, and hence why I have the motion. However, in saying that, we do have the ability through council with a fund that is set up through our Community Initiatives Fund. And I would welcome an application through to that when the Community Initiatives Fund is opened up. And that's all I would say of that. But as this recommendation stands at the moment and the request, I can't support.
Councillor Buckingham, you were the seconder. Do you wish to speak to it?
I just agree with everything Councillor Wilson has said. We've got a hard task ahead of us when it comes to keeping costs down, and we've got to stick to our guns over that.
Look, I'll speak. I support the motion. Council puts a considerable amount of money into Ratana, above and beyond normal. So in terms of the principal Ratana events, we absolutely step up in terms of providing support for Manawa. We've put extra water tankers in. We put a lot of resources in around various events there. I think Councillor Wilson, you're absolutely dead right. And you know, I have already moved in the direction of trimming other internal consent costs elsewhere in the district, and I think this is in the same state. So we've had 3 speakers for. Are there any speakers against understanding orders? Councillor Hill.
I'm not speaking against, but can I make a comment?
Certainly.
Just understanding what the makeup of the fees is good to understand where we sit as a council. What I'd like to say, and everyone can read this themselves, is that there's a significant amount of government funding that's going into this project. I would have thought that any of the costs that's here would be somehow be able to be used. That's what I'm just thinking.
Absolutely, Councillor Hayward, this would be taken out of that 10 million. Councillor Ainsworth.
Yeah, well, it's not against it, it's supporting. I believe what Councillor Wilson was saying, and the CEO has told us that we opened the door for them to come and sit at the table to find out what nuts and bolts were about this thing, and they haven't turned up for it, so just,
You're sort of speaking in support of the motion, and we've
Yes.
already had 3 speakers in favour. I take the context around where you're going.
Yeah.
Okay, unless there's another speaker against the motion, I'll put it to vote. Do you need to write a reply?
No, your worship.
Put it to vote, those in favour? Those against? Karen, thank you very much. Carry on with your report. please.
Thank you, and I'll think when we go back to them, councillor Wilson will make note of your suggestion to apply for that fund, which actually closes on the 31st of March. I'll bring Aaron to the table, in case there's any animal control questions. So this is, something that's required to be done under, the Dog Control Act each year. So you'll see the attachment. So this covers the 24-25 year. And I'm sure the Thornton will be very happy to take any questions if there are any on the report.
Yeah. Yours. Thank you.
Aaron Thornton, Manager Animal Control. Good morning, Mayor and councillors. This report is provided to elected members in accordance with Section 10A, the Dog Control Act 1996. And it outlines Rangitikei District Council's dog control activities for the period 1 July 2024 to 30 June 2025. The report's taken as read. The report summarises key operational practices and enforcement activities, education initiatives, and statistical trends relating to dog ownership and control across the district. During the reporting period, there were 2,356 dog owners with 4,969 registered dogs. The animal control team operating through a shared service arrangement with Manawatu District Council continued to provide 24-hour response to service requests and complaints. Overall complaint numbers decreased during the year, while proactive enforcement and continued public education initiatives supported responsible dog ownership across the district. The information contained in this report provides an overview of Council's approach to dog control and highlights key trends and outcomes for the reporting period. Thank you.
Take any questions around the report.
It's just a very quick one, and I'm part 2 there, page, page 88, it says statistical information. It says total prosecution taken nil, right at the very bottom, and infringement sent to court 16 as at June 24, and 29 is June 25. So how do we have no prosecution taken but 29 sent to court? What's how does that work?
Infringements where they haven't been paid are forwarded on to the courts for collection. It's not actually counted as prosecution, so we haven't taken any action against the dog owner, illegal action.
Okay, understand that, thank you.
Just a question from me. There is an absolute requirement that dogs are registered, and the dogs should be on a leash in Main Street, for instance, Martin. Yes. Thank you. That was an issue that was raised in some discussions. Any further questions? Sorry, Councillor Charlotte.
Your worship, just under impact on strategic risks, 10.3 obligations with health and safety and wellbeing are not met. There is a strong focus on health and safety and wellbeing within the organisations, but it's saying they're not met too.
Was that page 87?
Yeah, page 80.
88.
No, 80.
Right, 80.
I think the impact on the strategic risk to not meet that would be if we weren't meeting our obligations.
Yeah.
That if you read it the other way, rather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're saying we do meet our obligations, and the dashboard shows you how we go towards that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Right, would somebody like to move recommendation 3 that the annual report be required under 10A be adopted? Councillor Buckendale, Councillor Hero seconding. You wish to speak to it?
Just to comment, I've been involved on a personal basis with dog control in the last 12 months, both as a dog owner and a complaint I lodged, and I was very impressed with the actions your staff took and partly happy with the way the system is operating on a personal level. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Bring it to Charlotte.
Just one thing again, on the health and safety dashboard, there's a lot of stuff going on at the High Street office.
Yes. So,
Really concerning.
yeah, absolutely. This is all from the flood event. So we had significant water coming through the roof. We've had, there's a whole lot of.
Can I just rein us back just to the item that we're discussing here, please?
It is part of the.
Because otherwise it gets confusing here, that you raised a general item, not against the order paper here.
It's on the dashboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a mover and a second, your worship.
I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Councillor Sharman, it is on the dashboard, and if you wish to raise it as a separate issue to this motion, I'm more than happy for you to do so.
Yeah, just that I was concerned when there was 25 at the High Street office, so.
Yeah.
That's the question.
So as I was saying, most of those are from the weather event. So we had significant flooding. We had parts of the clear light blow off. There were numerous things that happened to this building as part of that weather event. Yeah. So they're all reported separately, so they're captured.
Thank you.
Anything further? No. We move on to item number 10, the reports for decision, the adoption of the annual plan 2026-27 for consultation, passed to the chief executive, who will pass to Tiffany Gower. Tiffany, take us through the report first.
Yep, so good morning, everyone. I'll take the report as read, but I will just briefly touch on some stuff.
Yep.
So the purpose of this report is to present the annual plan 2026-27 consultation material and concurrent consultations to you for your consideration and hopefully adoption. Public consultation is not technically required for this annual plan because there are no significant or material changes to what we had included in the LTP. However, officers have prepared consultation material on the basis that council wants to give the community an opportunity to have their say and provide feedback on what we have planned for 2026-27. Concurrently, we will be consulting on the proposed schedule of fees and charges and an amended version of the revenue and financing policy and an amended version of the rates for emissions policy. These are available, there are options available in the report for each of these. And I have outlined the implications depending on the option that you choose for each topic. If council elects to adopt the consultation information, then we would be going out for consultation on the 16th of March until the 17th of April. I'm happy to take any questions.
While you're thinking about that, would somebody like to move the receipt of the report? Councillor Hainsworth moving. Councillor, is that all right? Thank you. Councillor Baird seconding. I'll put that to the vote. It's just receiving it. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Would somebody like to move further recommendations? Look, I will move a recommendation 2 that council confirms that there are no significant or material differences between the year 3 of the long-term plan 2024-34 and the proposed 26-27. Therefore, it will not consult under section 95A of the Local Government Act. It still means we have a process to go through, but it's just saying there are no material differences that have been discovered. I'll move that, looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Buckendale seconding. Any questions? Any other speakers to it? Essentially, I'll speak to it, this is process. I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Motion is carried. And sorry, I should have included the and that council adopts the annual plan 26-27 as the co-document and annual plan supporting information for community consultation in accordance with section 82 of the Local Government Act. So the two run together. There's just a different process around how this is done. As my seconder and councils, I should have given a vote. Any disagreement? No, so let the recommendation stand as such. Would somebody like to move further with it? You're happy to?
Happy to move recommendation 3, Your Worship.
And looking for a seconder to that, councillor Hero. Do you wish to speak to that?
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory in the recommendation, Your Worship. It's circulated in the order papers.
Any questions, speakers to it? Otherwise, put to vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carry. That still leaves us with the amended revenue and financing policies associated with this. Would somebody like to move in that direction? Councillor Wong, but appropriate. Do you wish to move?
I'll move recommendation 4
As stated.
as stated.
Looking for a seconder to that. Quite appropriate, councillor Dalgety, Chair of Finance. Absolutely the two finance gurus in the room. Thank you very much. Any speakers to that? Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, it is moving it for community consultation in accordance with section 82, so we will be looking at it further on, so I have no problem with this.
Any further speakers? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. The next recommendation is about giving the Chief Executive authority to make minor editorial changes and corrections.
Happy to move.
Councillor Wilson moving, Councillor Buckendale second. Do you wish to speak to it?
It's appropriate as this gets formatted, put together. The Chief Executive along with staff will be checking and double checking and things, and there will be perhaps grammatical errors and things that pop up, and obviously the Chief Executive and the staff require the support of council to just step in and tidy those up so that we can continue on the process. So it's just a format really.
I suggested some very minor changes the other day. They are included already and reformatted. Thank you. One of which was that the rating positions, there are examples given around the impact on rates, but there is also a process which you can go online to see what your actual rates are, so you don't have sort of guess as to where you're at. That takes us to the end of that. Sorry, yes, need to vote, sorry. Put it to vote, those in favour, those against. Very thanks.
Just one thing that you mentioned, that we've got that modelling tool that we could use online, just to request through to the staff. Can we just make sure we can check the accuracy of that prior to that being up and running? It's been used in the past. We just make sure the accuracy of it is factually correct.
Through the chair, we're currently testing, and
Excellent.
we've identified that because we made a decision to standalone civil defence as a standalone rate. We're just getting that updated as we speak,
Excellent.
and then it will be online, and we will notify elected members once it is.
Thank you for that.
And thank you, staff. We've dealt with that reasonably quickly. It's been a huge workload for council staff to process this. So thank you for the input. Moving to item 10.2, this is the February storm event Black, road and transport manager. So let's not jump to you there, we'll go straight to.
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit of a shared approach to outlining this report and potentially with Mr. Bernardi as well, so we'll probably all chip in at times, if that's all right.
Good morning. So yeah, the reason for this report is to go around the details of the event on the 15th of February. So very much well documented. We will know what happened. So section 2, I can just skip over that. Happy to take some questions on that if you like. But it was definitely the wind and the rain that caused us the issues. Specifically for roading, was through the Turkana Valley mainly. There's a map on the second page here that shows the spread of the damage. All those dots are individual dispatches. So right up through the middle there was the most of the issues. Road closures all over the place. We had 16 official closures, but there were lots more that were marginal. So that avoid traffic all.
The dots were just road.
Covers most of them. So we had most roads open within 4 days. There were 2 roads just west of Mangawika that remained closed for a week, but there was due to some dropouts there, so they were open within a week. So
I think it's important to note too that while they were open, that didn't mean they were back to their normal state.
No.
They were actually sometimes just drivable by one lane and by a 4-wheel drive or some larger vehicle.
So roads were clear to one lane, obviously, and some of the hazards there were significant. We couldn't leave them like they were. So we're into that cleanup stage now. The first week was really around keeping things open or getting things open and getting the network restored. So into the cleanup phase now. We've got some significant larger issues, about 9 or 13 actually, which require engineering input. So we're looking at around about 2 million for the roading component. Haven't got a final estimate on that, but that's going to be pretty close.
A question from me, or do you? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. And I know this is not your field because you're road, but in terms of the impact in the district, the loss of power and PowerCo was a very significant event. Can staff tell me, are you aware of any people still without power?
I know of one on Calico Line, but that's an issue.
Because it is infrastructure on one. I just wanted people to be aware online that there has been very, very significant challenges in terms of power and loss of capacity there. Councillor Watson.
Just looking to clarify, Darren, when you mentioned the $2 million, that is inclusive or exclusive of fire rate?
That's the total amount. So
it's the total amount. So our fire rates and things still apply.
But further on, the local share is around 5.
Yeah, and I just looking to understand that because that number can, people may not realise that there's a componentry of that. It's not directly going to be cost associated with us as ratepayers. So it's quite good to clarify the difference between the two. Yep.
It's not only includes the far rate in that space, but also the enhanced far rate of 20% above far.
Yes.
Councillor Baird.
Further on from your comment, Your Worship, about power, what about telecommunications? I know that it's not under our purview again, but sometimes access to those sites is part of,
So if you refer back to my mayor's report, I think I'm under Mark Mitchell's, there was a question raised to the minister around battery life in cell towers, etc. And he said, recognise that is an issue and that steps are being made to look at how it can be progressed.
Okay.
So, sorry, go back to you.
Further issues around power for us. PowerCo were all over the place. So we had a lot of trees that were tangled up in power lines and we didn't know if they were live or not. So that did cause us a few delays. And we were trying to work with PowerCo as the event sort of progressed and did our best there, but there were definitely delays because of that.
Sorry,
that's right. So we had NZTA here on the 3rd of March as part of our also standard sort of procedure, if you like, to bring them in and take them on a bit of a tour around the district, just to go over the claim and what we're expecting to put in. So that was a good meeting. quite positive, weren't any characteristic errors or problems come out of that. So the delay now is compiling the costs for the larger cost items or cost repairs, because we want to get that right before we put the claim into NZTK. So the funding options for roading. So if we put a claim in for 2 million, that's what we're looking to do. The local share to be funded from reserves, and there's a little bit of a breakdown on that in section 8.5, which we might get the end to talk to. That was the first option we talked about or thought about. The second one isn't going to work because we don't have the money, but I needed to put it on the table. Is this stage of the financial year we can't absorb that sort of cost through our OPEX budgets. And the third option thought about too was the extra money that we're getting from NZTA. We technically could divert some of that to cover our local share. Again, it's probably not an eligible option, but it's something that we consider.
Yeah, it's quite tricky little combinations that sit within this matrix, and I'll have some questions later. But I'll go to the Deputy Mayor first, Chair of Assets.
Yeah, so thanks. And clearly by reading the report, it is an event that is going to put us under some financial strain, but also put us under strain to do capacity of work. And I note that you've mentioned a couple of times in there that some works are likely to be delayed or pushed out further down the line while we try to deal with this, and all the while trying to help protect our ratepayers from any potential rates blowout and costs. What do you see as a risk here? I'm looking at a couple of the roads which are mentioned in the report. Do we run a risk of being up for a significant amount more money on these during these delays, or have you assessed them to say, yeah, look, we can sweat this for a little bit further to enable us to put our resources elsewhere, or are we just going to end up with a bigger bill down the road here?
So we're not looking to sweat any of it. We're protecting those that require some sort of immediate action. We call it bunding, where we'll put an asphalt bund or an earth bund around, say, a dropout. So that'll divert water. It'll stop the flooding from increasing if we do get further rainfall. Also keeping traffic off areas that are dangerous. So we're not diverting. The only delay will be getting the designs and appropriate repair finalised.
Yeah, sorry, just referring to 3.2, this is an impact on delaying other pavements work across just where some sites are holding treatments until major work can be undertaken. Is there a risk sitting in there with that one? I understand the pressure that we're all under. I'm just wondering are we facing a bit of a risk here?
Different report installed.
Different report, right, once again, way ahead of myself.
I'll jump into that.
You can jump in and try and save me.
But I have two questions. One of them is reasonably technical. So first of all, one of the options would be literally to increase the 6.4% rate increase to a 6.6 or 6.7. We have, and the technical aspect of that is we've just adopted a consultation plan. So I'm presuming that would still be possible by way of submission to our own plan.
Well, it would, but I think if there was an appetite to do it, it would be better to go out and say that at this point in time. But also, I think we've flagged in the consultation document that if council chooses the approach of using the reserves, we're pretty much not going to have any reserves left. So I would welcome a conversation as part of the long-term plan to start rebuilding those reserves.
Yeah, you're sort of jumping into the second area that I was going to raise, because this is quite an issue. And technically, yes, we could increase our rate increase, and I think it would be by way of submission to our own plan, which is quite reasonable. This event happened when all of the calculations that by staff had been done, and to try and just do it as of right now would be very, very tricky. But there's a part two to this, in terms of, we haven't made as a region an application for regional assistance through the government. And I'm not sure that we would stand any hope at all of getting regional assistance with where the government is at. But it's an application process that I believe we should go through. And I'd rather we went through it and turned down if necessary. But also, by going through that process, it also opens the door to assistance from government, not only for ourselves as an entity, but potential assistance if we find, for instance, that our cropping sector or agricultural sector in some way has been severely impacted. And we haven't really got the fine tune around that. Regional council, Accelerate 35 and those sorts of agencies are working trying to understand it. But it is, the loss in forestry has been significant. And when you have nearly 1,000 hectares of forest that is on the ground or severely impacted, and some of those forests are due for harvest now, and there will be a percentage recovery. Some of it will be future income loss from those forests. But they are unlikely to be insured. And the cropping situation, we have a large number of maize crops, I understand about. We're talking thousands of hectares of maize crops that will have been damaged, and some of that damage is quite significant. But I think at the very least, we should be having a discussion regionally as to whether we apply and whether some of our costs could be folded into that in the future as part of that process.
And I'm working on that regionally with Horizons.
Yeah, so we shouldn't discount that. The third part is where Carol's heading. We tried to set up a roading budget some time ago and put $300,000 into it. The reality is that our roading budget in the future is going to be severely impacted. You know, we had 31 districts that had declared in the last 2 years. And that the minister says 61% of the country is under some form of recovery from these events. They are going to be incredibly regulated. And whether we look at discussions in our long-term plan, because that is the appropriate place to do it, around a specified targeted rate for roading infrastructural damage, that's probably something that we will need to consider. However, that doesn't give you, sorry, as author of this report, an absolute directive as to how you handle this. But I just want to put those items on the table. Councillor Wong.
Just a question. You're looking at increasing the overall budget for roading. Is there the capacity by the contractors to carry out the work in this financial year?
Good question.
Yes, they'll be able to get the work done. The funding will carry over. So we've got, we're in the middle year of our 3-year cycle. Emergency works funding, we can, if it's approved, it's funded at our normal financial assistance rate up to the point where we've spent the equivalent of 10% of our approved program. So for us, it's 1.5 million. If this claims 2 million, that extra 500, we get it at an advanced FAR of 86. So it's our FAR plus 20. And that will carry forward into next year. So there's no real time pressure apart from making sure that the network is safe and being content.
I suppose, Darren, is it you look at your work program and just reprioritise some of those areas that really need to be addressed immediately. So the team are doing that constantly, and they would look at their work program and probably reprioritise some of the planned work to undertake some of this emergency work.
Dana are also very well resourced throughout the country, so we can bring teams in from elsewhere to do certain types of work for us.
All right, we need to move into some recommendations here, looking for somebody, first of all, the simple one, just to receive the report. Thank you, councillor Charlotte moving. Councillor Field seconding, thank you, councillor. Do you wish to speak to it? What is the vote? Those in favour, those against, carried. Now we come to the trickier ones in terms of actually financing this. Does somebody wish to move recommendation 2 or any other recommendation? Councillor Wong.
I will move this recommendation to approve the road funding option 1 to fund local share of 598,000. And I believe that the comments from his worship about possibly increasing the rates increase to fund that, is that part of this? Am I on the right track?
No, if you do that,
Yes.
you won't have to increase, if you do that recommendation 2, my understanding is you wouldn't need to increase the rate type.
Where's the funding coming from then?
I think cash reserves were saying for sufficient.
I think it's in the recommendations.
Yeah, 290 for cash reserves.
Ah, okay. So when do we need to increase the rates increase?
You would have only, if you hadn't decided to use these funds, then you would have to find another source of rates, another
Okay.
source of funds, which could have been by rates.
I'll move it and we can discuss it and see if it's the right thing.
Okay, are you happy as
I'm
the mover?
I'm happy to, yeah, to open this, to move it to for discussion anyway. Okay.
Looking for a second, I open councillor Wilson seconding, but yeah, it gets tricky. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would like to know from our finance and roading people what the negatives of adopting this option is.
It's an interesting way of doing it. So you're raising a question, having already moved and seconded. That's all right.
You needed to put it on the
But I'm
table.
fine with that. Does the roading finance team wish to make comment?
I'm happy to pick that one up through the chair. So we are recommending using existing reserves, targeted reserves. The negative to that is it will clear them out. That is the reality for the roading activity. And for the parks and reserves, it was just simply finding a bit of general cash reserves. There will be, I'd imagine, a future conversation about how we build reserves.
Right, okay, so she's got, okay, thank you. No, that's very good, thank you.
Councillor Bear, do you wish to speak to it?
I have a question as
Yeah,
well.
we'll do questions.
If this motion is successful, how will that impact on our ability to seek other kinds of funding that we've just been discussing?
In my opinion, the council staff may well have an opinion here as well, but I don't think there would be an impact on that. That would be seen as a separate function. But a good question. Any other speakers? Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, just as a seconder, I support the motion, but just to point out that this is really just a motion is to enable to push on and get this work done and get back on track following an event. The subsequent issue is how do we prepare ourselves in the future for getting some funds back into the tin, and how do we look at sort of resilience as an organisation? These are two separate things. Let's just deal with giving our roading team and our contractors the ability to push on, do as much as we can without impacting too much of the other workflows that we've got. So I think we need to separate these two matters.
Right, a reply?
No, I'm happy with the position, thank you.
What is the vote? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. And then recommendation 3, this is the council does or does not fund the parks and reserves clean-up costs following a 15 February event by using a combination of reduced expenditure of 70,000 and general reserves of approximately 50,000. Look, I will move that, looking for a seconder to it. Councillor Buckendale seconding. And speaking to this, for the Parks and Reserves team to go and try and reduce their budgets by 70,000 is a huge ask. So they have gone absolutely out of their way, and they have been absolutely under the pump to find the most cost-effective way of dealing with this event. It would have been very easy for them to have just said, "Oh, we're going to put massive crews in at huge expense everywhere possible, and not try and look for alternative options." So I think I'd like that comment passed to staff, saying thank you for the work they've done. The reality is that we had to open our parks again. The work had to be done. And I think this is the best result I could have hoped for. Councillor Baird.
I'd just like to add to that in discussion from that I've overheard from staff has been that the creative ways that has been conducted to benefit the community in multiple fronts. So I'd also like to commend that.
Yeah. Any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, agree with your words, Your Worship, and reduced expenditure of 70 to try and deal with this event. Does that reduced expenditure signal to the wider community that there may be a reduction in some level of services as we move through this? And if that is the case, I'm supportive, because we're trying to help reduce any rating impact from this event. But I think it needs to be signalled that we might have to cut down a mowing here or a mowing there or something like that to try and pick it up to stay within that reduced expenditure 70. It should be signalled that it will have an impact. And I applaud the staff for the work that they've done, and also the staff in trying to figure out how we can do this with the least amount of impact, particularly financial to rates. But it will have an impact. And I think we need to remember that.
The speaker is in support of what I've said, so no right reply required. Auckland today doesn't vote it. That's against, carried. Thank you. That moves us to the really important field of money. Moves us, I believe, to 10.3, finance performance terms of reference, and pass to the Chief Executive. Passing it on. Yeah.
So good morning, everyone, again, through the chair. We had originally planned to bring the terms of reference to the Finance Performance Committee meeting last week, but that got cancelled due to a number of reasons. So I'm bringing it to council. However, I have worked with the chair of Finance Performance to put together this terms of reference. So while it hasn't been to the committee, it has been through the chair. Happy to take questions.
Does Councillor Dalgety as chair, do you wish to comment first?
No, taken is in front of us there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just through the chair, there was one comment I wanted to check on, and I haven't had a chance to catch up with Councillor Dalgety, is the meeting frequency alternating between a formal meeting and a workshop, and just wondering if we can make that a little bit more flexible in case we don't need it. There may be some that we've planned for a workshop, but the timing of particular reports that really need a council decision, a committee decision, it'd be easier to bring that to a committee meeting.
I think that, to be honest, I think that's a given. Councillor Dalgety, do you have an issue there?
Not at all.
Any further questions? Councillor Wong.
In the terms of reference delegations, is to oversee all financial policies, including financial strategy, revenue and financing policy, and rates remission policy. So I take that to mean that that policy will be set by the Financial and Performance Committee rather than the Policy and Planning Committee. Is that correct?
That's the way.
That is correct.
That is correct.
Right, thank you.
And rates remission policies are a subgroup within that.
Yeah.
I'll put it to vote. Have we got to that stage? No, I haven't. I was going to jump 3 steps to hit Councillor Wilson, I'm going to yours to me. Recommended. Let's receive the report first. I'm looking for a reception of the report. Councillor Dalgety, do you wish to move? Thank
Yes.
you, moving. Second, Councillor Wong, those in favour? Those against, carried. And would somebody move? Councillor Dalgety, do you wish to move? Thank you. Looking for a second or two. It's a reference. Councillor Wong,
Could I just suggest, your worship, that it's as amended?
as amended. Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion or put it to the vote? Those in favour? Those against? I caught up with myself now. Thank you. Looking to 10.4, the adoption of the local governance statement. And who's taking us through this?
Oh, thank you, your worship. So the local governance statement is a requirement under the Local Government Act. You're required to have it prepared and adopted within 6 months of the triennial election. It provides general information around how the council operates, how you make decisions, those type of high-level matters. So what we've done is gone through, had a review of our existing one, and then suggested changes to make it more up to date. The last one was reviewed 3 years ago, so there's a number of changes you'll see throughout the amended document that was suggested. So a couple of options there that you adopted today. Then we would send it to graphics and make it available online, or if you wanted significant changes, you could direct us officers to make those changes and bring it back to you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The only question for you when I read it, is this a statutory document that I have to sign?
No.
Any further questions? No. Looking for somebody to receive it. We've received, seconded. Councillor Hero seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. And we need to move either as adopted without amendment or as amended. Would like somebody like to so move. Councillor Wilson, did you move as amended? As amended. What was the amendment?
It was in the.
It's not very.
I'd have to go and dig up the report.
No, I don't think we needed an amendment for that.
You don't, but you highlighted some in the report.
Yeah, so for reference, the amendments would be taken as you're adopting those. As amended would just be any further amendments from the meeting today.
Okay, thank you. Well, without amendment based on that. We're referring to the amendments.
Second is still happy with that we haven't got yet. Councillor Hero seconding. Do you wish to speak?
No, you wish.
Want to vote unless there's a question raised? Or a speaker? Put to the vote, those in favour? Those against? Carried, thank you. Item 11, the reports for information, 2026-27, roading funding. Darren, thank you.
This report just goes over the details of what happened up in Taipei this year. We're all aware of the impacts from the Milko closures and our funding application to NZTA, which was approved for extra funding to cover that. But for a lot of work. So that's pretty much the context. I'm happy to take any questions as we go.
This isn't a decision-making paper. This is a report to you around it, the asset management process within roading and effect. Don't know, do you wish to say something?
Thank you, Your Worship, if I may. It really was on the back of a question from councillors to have a bit more of a view of the works that are planned for that money. So we had to defer some works from this year into the next year, and this money will pay for that. So this kind of just listing, these are the jobs that we're going to do with this money.
This absolutely aligns with the governorship responsibilities to understand the asset management plan that you're responsible for. So if there are changes within that, those are always going to happen. But you have a responsibility to understand what they are and accept them. Councillor Wilson, Chair of Assets.
Yes, thank you, your worship. Just for understanding, my feeling is that this report has been put together following on the discussions that we had at our workshop a couple of weeks ago. And some of these points were raised at that workshop, and the idea to bring it more formally through to council and to have it on our radar, as you say, if we're changing things within our asset management plan and signalling that we have to divert or tack a little bit for various different reasons. The only thing that I would just raise on this particular report is, do we signal that to those that may be affected or expecting a bit of work to be done on their side? Are we signaling it to them at an appropriate time? Would this be a flag that I raise and make sure that we can continue to do that if we are diverting some works or delaying some works, that we make sure we've got clear communications out to anybody that might be affected?
Yeah, so what you're saying, it's not just us that needs to be informed, it's the community.
Yes, there's a wider section of the community that need to be made aware if there's things being changed.
Would like to receive the report?
Happy to move receipt of, yes.
Looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Hainsworth seconding. Those in favour, those against? Carried. Thank you. Financial snapshot, Leanne, 11.2. This is for January 2026.
Through the chair. So while this seems a little bit late, this report again was due to go to the Finance Performance Committee, and in their absence, I've brought it here just to keep the council up to date with financial matters as we go through the year. So happy to take any questions.
This is about events that have already happened in fact. Any questions?
Just one quick one. When tracking this in the past, we've been a little bit delayed on the reporting versus the income that's being received largely via rates incomes, and we get these peaks and troughs. But looking at this seems to be more levelled. They've been taken out. Is that a deliberate actions, or what's,
Through the
is there a
chair,
change there somewhere?
No, the rates should have always reflected quite a steady stream because we invoice quarterly, we reflect and account for them under accrual monthly, so they shouldn't. Where our gaps in revenue often occur is our timing with the NZTA, depending on the OPEX and CAPEX split.
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of CAPEX work, then we won't see that revenue happening until that work's done, you know, in the way we do our NZTA claims. So it's typically more our regulatory and our capital type programs that cause, because the revenue comes through, I'm going to say our P&L for lack of a better word, and then reflects for the capital expenditure. So it's more timing around that. If we've got a high OPEX NZTA program, we see more consistent of the NZTA funding coming through.
Okay, so given the subsequent, your worship, if I'm able, so given the earlier discussions that we've had today about this additional funding that's being applied for from NZTA and the need for Darren and the team to do some digging around, we're likely to see some different spikes come through with this work being delayed in funding, which we're still being paid for.
It will depend on how the split of OPEX versus CAPEX becomes. And often with that sort of work, particularly with flood repairs, I'm going to assume that'll be mainly OPEX because it's repairing what should be.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The perennial one here is the reduced CAPEX spend against budget against it over time.
Yes.
And that continues to frustrate councillors. We have some very significant CAPEX programs that are going to struggle to be spent by the 30th of June.
Correct. And through the chair again, we're going to do a reforecast of that for our next set of reports so that we can actually identify the programs that we actually have no control over due to other things going on in the background. And so we'll start to signal that so that you can see that. And again, like we did last year, then you'll start to see what's going to be projected in the annual plan, as we've already done. This is what we won't do this year.
But that consideration has been taken into account when looking at annual plan processes in terms of loan requirements and
Absolutely.
appreciation planning for the future.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that people are aware that those processes are going, have been in front of the finance team. Look, would somebody like to move, so we're speaking to a motion, that reception of the finance snapshot? Councillor Field, thank you very much. Councillor Wong, seconding. Councillor Field, do you wish to speak to it at all?
Just to say thank you very much.
Thank you. Pass that on.
Any other speakers to it? I've spoken to it in effect.
One more question on the external debt borrowings. Which is page 113.
Yep.
So we've got two parcels of amount borrowed which were settled in February. The last two.
Sweet.
February 26. They have been, well, they've matured, so they've been rolled over, have they?
That is correct. Through the chair, yes.
And at what rates?
I don't have that with me, sorry, at the moment, but that will be in the next monthly report.
Yes.
And we're starting to time, depending if it's debt that we're passing on to our central district's water or retaining, depending on that, will depend now also on the term of that debt.
Okay, and is that still, further question, is that still being managed by that,
Through Bancorp.
through Bancorp? is
Correct.
it?
And we work closely with them both on our day-to-day management, but also on getting the balance right for what we retain and what we transfer across.
So your next report would have a Bancorp report in it too, then at the next one to finance, would it?
We will receive it at the end of September, so you won't, the end of March, so we would get that for April's report, because the timing of getting our reports written and receiving theirs.
Thinking of quarterly feed, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
We're good, but good questions. Thank you, councillor. Unless there is any other speakers to the report other than questions, I'll take it as read. This is a snapshot of what has been. Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Vote against. Carried. Thank you very much. 11.3, the statement of service provision July 2025 through to December 2025. You wish to speak to that? And
Yeah, certainly. So this is our 6-month statement of service provision report. These are our measures that council set in terms of the long-term plan that we measure progress against at 3, 6, 9 and full year intervals. The full report is in your agenda, so happy to answer any questions you might have about any of the progress that we've made.
When is the next review of this one? It's a 3. It comes back in the long-term plan, and now, from my understanding, that is a full review of what is actually measured, but what the measurement targets are at the same time. Is that correct? Because they change every time, and what is realistic to be measured and what can't be measured.
we have to set targets. So
yes, okay, that's a long-term plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And through the chair, you'll be doing that towards mid to end of this year.
Thanks.
Councillor Hillrock, thank you.
Just a comment around the statement of service report. I think it's a really good overview of what we're responsible for as council. I think it gives for those of our ratepayers or our residents that are interested in looking at this report, it gives them a good understanding of the scope that's involved within council. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and I think Councillor Wilson, you framed it well in terms of parks and reserves and so on. There may well be processes in the future we have to look at. Are you asking a question?
So the interrupt slightly, apologies for the loud stutter. I think it was against a candid photo. So
Councillors, this isn't a recording, this is just a straight photograph. And does anybody have an objection? You shouldn't, effectively in a public space. Go ahead, Phil. Moving on. Yeah, moving on to get movers and seconders. Sorry, councillor Wong.
Just following on this discussion about the statement of service and the following from councillor Wilson's comments about the parks reserves with the perhaps looking at the reduction in service, does that trigger any of our significance policies? Because are we well away that we're not? Okay.
It's just reviewing their planned work and probably potentially reprioritising, but like the roading.
Okay.
So, you know, there may be things they plan to do, improvements to make, they can't do it now because the money's been reduced.
Thank you.
Looking for 11.3, a mover and a seconder. Councillor Wong, you're happy to move. Councillor Hero seconding. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Wong?
Thank you. Would explain.
This could be a moment in the sun for your photograph.
Think of significance.
Put it to the vote. Those in favour, those against, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving to item number 12.1, the reception of minutes. Can we receive them as a block from someone, please, councillor Wilson?
That is a block.
You worship for second, councillor Starlin, you happy to second?
Yep.
And I'll take this as routine, taking this straight to a vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Before I move into public excluded, is there anything further from staff that I needed to have done today? Right, would somebody like to move, if we go into public excluded, for the items shown and for the reasons given, and this is your opportunity to question the use of public excluded if you wish to do so. Councillor Wilson.
Happy to move for the reasons stated as being valid.
Councillor Buckendale, you seconding that? Put it to vote. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you. Thank you for the press. And thank you, Justin. We've now moved into